When you are scared, what do you do? When you're threatened, what do you do? Hide. All right. Yeah, there's that wonderful, it really, they say that there are two choices. Fight or flight. That response, it's reflexive. It's fight or flight. And when we're threatened and when we do that, we either kind of want to run away or we're like, bring it on. And there's that kind of, it's not necessarily very conscious. We don't necessarily know what we'll do. I was hiking in the woods the last couple days up in the White Mountains, and boy, it was gorgeous. And we had talked to somebody who had run into a bear. And I was like, what? And we were talking about what we would do. And everybody said, don't run. And I'm like, yeah, I'm faster than both of you. I don't have to run faster than the bear. But it is this thing that you kind of realize that we have these responses that are in us. And I think about that in the context of what's going on in this gospel and what's been going on in the last gospel as well last week with Jesus as we're entering into Lent. As Aaron talked about this incredible gift of Lent that is a time not of punishment but of preparation, of how we prepare for this life of faith, of following Jesus, this life of the way of love. And last week, Jesus is tempted by Satan. Worship me, and I'll give you everything. And this week, it's really interesting. I just want to note, the Pharisees are not bad guys in this story. They're coming to warn Jesus about Herod, the strong man that is just kind of wreaking havoc across the land. They're like, he is going to get you. They're like saying, you are threatened. And the temptation, I think, for Jesus today is not this kind of grand temptation like being at the pinnacle and throw yourself down, God will catch you. But rather to give up the mission, to give up the work that he was called to do. Run away. Herod's going to get you. But what does Jesus do instead? Jesus says, tell Herod that I'm going to do today what I did yesterday, and tomorrow I'm about the work. I have set my face to Jerusalem, and I'm about the work of caring for people, of loving people. He doesn't run. He doesn't fight. He stays present. And I was like, whoa. Boy, do I need to hear that in my life. Because I'll confess, I haven't had to fight for much in my life. I was put together on this earth in a container that things just aren't that hard. Being a white, straight male that's 6 feet tall in America, yeah, I had to show up, but I didn't have to fight for it. I'm not disparaging myself or anybody else who was put together in this container, but it's just true. And so my tendency when things are hard is I'm like, peace, I can run faster than the bear. Faster than my friend, I'm out. But God beckons us to stay present, to be present to your life, to the work that is before us. And I will tell you, it would be really easy to tune out right now. It's not easy because the news is everywhere, but is a temptation, such a temptation, to just go la 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 and close your eyes. But there's work to do. There's work to do. This action of life, this gift that we're given of being in the earth so that we can care for each other. And so I was thinking about this, that Jesus doesn't run, he doesn't fight. He picks vulnerability. picks it. How many of us have done that? I mean, we're taught from an early age, don't do that. Be self-sufficient. Make sure all the commercials on TV are about security. We're either going to take a pill and it's going to make us live forever, or not really, but I mean, that is kind of the advertising claim. Or we need all the money in the financial security, and it's all about security. Whereas Jesus isn't saying be foolish, but he is saying pick vulnerability. Vulnerability over violence. Think about that. That, in a way, Jesus' model of leadership, his way of leading us is through vulnerability and servanthood. It's amazing. And the other thing that I've noticed about Jesus' leadership, and I look for it when I look at leaders, is are they anxious? Do you know people that walk in a room and they're just calm? That is a mark, to me, of leadership. Doesn't mean that they don't feel anxious. It means that they don't project it onto everybody else. And you've also seen the opposite, where somebody walks in the room and is like, wah! And the anxiety goes through the roof. And so I think what I am hearing in the good news, and you might be asking that, where is the good news in this? The good news is that Jesus doesn't run from us. He doesn't fight against us either. But God is present with us in this work. And you say, what work, Rob? Work of caring for each other. Whenever we are at our best, the most vulnerable are being given attention. At the very least, we honor them and say, hey, are you okay? What do you need? How can we help? When we're at our worst, we shun them. And when I say we, I mean humanity. And so look around and see where the people that are reaching out in love to others, especially to those who are vulnerable. Because guess what, folks? I'm going to let you in on a secret. We're all vulnerable. Even Jesus. All of us. And you might go, gosh, I don't like that word. Well, I commend to you a person who's done a lot of study. Her name is Brene Brown. You've probably heard of her. She's a sociologist and just really smart person, but she also presents well. And there's TED Talks about this, but she's done a lot of work on vulnerability. A ton of it. And one of the favorite things about it that I've heard about is that she was in a room full of all these Navy SEALs and commanders. And she asked this question. She said, tell me a time where you witnessed or experienced extreme bravery without vulnerability being present. And she has yet to this day received an answer. Because in order to be truly brave, you have to open yourself up. You have to be vulnerable. You step out in faith. You have to risk. And in risk, it is opening yourself up. This type of bravery is all over Jesus. It's the way he moved through the world. If you look at his life, the way he behaved, the way he practiced his life, it was one of opening up all of the time. I would love to tie this up with a nice little bow and hand it to you and say, doesn't that feel good? Yet I don't think that's where we are, because we are in this time in our lives, at least I am, where I am definitely in that fight or flight place where I'm like, whew, I feel unsteady. And this gospel has done a good job of kind of convicting me and rooting me in the fact that, no, Rob, Don't just do something, stand there. You ever heard that phrase? It's the turn. Because we're always told to do something. I think in one way for me, before I do anything, I need to stand still and be present. Present to myself, present to God, but also present to one another. There is work for us. This world is so hungry for love, for care, for compassion, for empathy, for mercy, as we heard in our collect. So pray with me that as we prepare in this season of Lent to do this good work, to participate in God's mission in the world, that we will resist the temptation to run. And we will also resist the temptation to retaliate with violence. But that we will take our lead from a leader who led with love, presence, and care. Pray for me that I will resist the temptation to run. And please know that I will pray for all of us that we will drink deeply from the cup that never runs out. This cup of love and compassion that God gives to us. Because the good news that I rest in today as I am about this mission of love is that I don't have to do it alone. We are never, ever alone. God is with us in this work. I have a wonderful little plaque given to me when I was ordained by a friend of mine who knew me well. He said, and it says, "Bidden or not, God is present." Which he basically whispered in my ear and said, "Hey, Stevens, it's not all up to you. God's going to do God's thing whether you're on board or not." I just pray daily that we are on board. God is present. Thanks be to God. Amen.